Hi, Oz.
Charlie, how's it going?
It's going good. Miss you, man.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Yeah. Anything new in the world for you?
I don't know. Has anything happened in the last year?
No, but I have someone I could ask.
Okay.
It's my little agent here. Yeah, it's
Okay.
I'm glad we're talking. I'm glad we're talking mainly because this is probably one of those existential moments for a lot of your former students who are thinking, I did all this work with Oz over the last couple of years. I've fought my way into this role. Oh wow, I have the camera moving. That's kind of annoying. But uh, yeah, like are you having conversations with people? Like, how are you internally thinking about like what's happening in the world of learning computer science now that we have agents that are seemingly working? And I'll throw it out there. Are they working for you? Have you changed the way Oz is doing things?
Yeah, I mean, what has like fundamentally changed in the last 12 months? It does seem like agents are working.
Mm.
So another way of saying that is like RLVR has proven to work, and
What is RLVR?
I mean, basically reinforcement learning, but
Okay.
stands for reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards. So
Okay.
this technique where we're saying, hey, like, I don't know, look, I've been having these conversations with students since ChatGPT came out, where it's like a day afterwards, people are like, oh, should I retrain to be a plumber or something? Where does my computer science education go? And at the time where it was like chatbot interface, message in, message out, it was hard to necessarily anticipate that that would get good enough to like do meaningful work.
Yeah.
And so, we've had some progress since then. And to say like, well, look, the objective is to not give an answer to the user. The objective is actually to emit tokens which invoke tools and get their results and do that in a loop. And let's give it these tools and let's also train it to work towards an objective using these tools. It
Yeah.
turns out that it does much better, even if it's not necessarily that intelligent. We can no longer see the reasoning that goes into it. The labs are no longer giving that to us in the original form, but like it's pretty easy to tell that it's more about trying things and retrying if it doesn't work out
Yeah.
than necessarily it's about getting it right in the first place. But they can do that very quickly. So if you're willing to spend the tokens, it turns out we can get these results.
Okay.
So anyway, we can train based on this paradigm and the agents, like at least for things that are easy for us to verify as well and easy to design as a reward function during training. It works pretty well. So for me, like, are agents working for me? Yes, for the kinds of things that I'm doing now, it is generally working quite well. Does it work for people like Richie Artle, like people who are really trying to deliver very high quality software? Generally not. Like
Okay.
it's
Have you caught up with
generally
Richie
not.
and asked him?
No, but he was recently writing about it, and he's switched from trying to make it work in most circumstances to basically saying there's a narrow set of cases in which it works for him. And he
Okay.
says the most productive member of his team doesn't at all. Like it's still artisanally
Really?
hand coded for him. So like it may be the case that for 99% of people, it does work enough. But if it's the 1% of people who are really pushing the industry forward, these are
I,
oversimplifications,
I
but
at the same
like,
time, I feel like I'm seeing perhaps hyperbolic articles, but they also seem real where people are doing like these ambitious rewrites. Like, I think the
mhm.
bun person just rewrote into Rust or Zig or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it sort of feels like things like that might be a recognition that we're doing this ambitious work that might not have been possible before, and it's doing it at some level of technical depth that I think that person probably is in that 1%. I think that is moving the ball forward in some way.
Yeah, yeah, there are those examples as well. I mean, many.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, it's there's definitely like a fog of war kind of period right now where people are trying to figure out the capabilities, even of current models, and you know, uh, there's hype, and we've got to remember that a lot of these experiments are like funded by people. who would
That's fair.
benefit from the hype, and that's an example of one. And a lot of it is like proof of concept kind of work, and um, like it may turn out that certain aspects of it work and some don't, and some are worth the cost and some are not.
Yeah.
But it's very obviously worth taking seriously. And even if it only helps some percentage of people with some percentage of their use cases, like it's real.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm personally finding sometimes if I like I'm on a run or I'm about to go to bed and I'm thinking to myself, have I fired off an agent to work on this linear ticket for me? And it's I think maybe I just fall prey to those easy psychological sort of worst case scenarios where it's like I've turned this into a source of stress for me. At the same time, it's kind of nice. Like I'm going to fire this thing off. I am going to go for that run, and I come back and I
mhm.
have something I can review. So, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't is how I feel right now.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think you would agree that like your best work is not done while you're on a run. Uh, like your anyone's best work is done when they're really focused on something.
Yeah,
And so there's a question of like to what degree does it actually help us to offload some of the low focus tasks to an agent so that we can focus on the high focus tasks ourselves. So for someone like Richie, like if he can get 20% or even half of his work kind of offloaded, is that still beneficial?
yeah,
Um, and you can argue that both ways and say, of course, like half my time is important. It's great to get that back. But you might also say that there's a kind of Amdahl's law effect. You remember Amdahl's law from computer architecture?
I recognize the name. I can't remember. I can't remember the law.
I mean, the basic idea is that you'd be surprised how little you get from parallelism.
Hmm.
It's like basically the bottleneck, the non-parallelizable portion of a program dominates your speed up. So, like, let's say you can speed up half of your program, like half of it is parallelizable, and the other half of it is synchronization afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like it's pretty amenable to parallelization, but then you think, like, okay, if I have two CPU cores dedicated to this now, I only get a 25% improvement. If I have 1,000 CPU cores dedicated to this, I only ever get a 50%
Hmm.
improvement.
Hmm.
It's really saying I approach this limit. And so if there's some like non-agent amenable portion of your task, or as an industry, if there's some non-agent amenable portion of our work, then we'd be surprised to see like how quickly we get used to the fact that the rest of it is automated and we're just stuck on what's left.
Yeah.
So it may be like that, but I don't know. I feel like there are two big questions that people are asking, and they're important questions that should be taken seriously. One is like, what aspects of computer science marginally are more worth or less worth learning?
Yeah.
The extreme version of that is like, should I still learn computer science? Which, I mean, okay, I can take that seriously as well, but it has it's a very direct answer from me at least.
Yeah.
But like, other aspects, other things that I should pay more or less attention to. So that's one. The other is like, well, now that I have this thing, can I use that as can I see it as an asset for my learning and growth rather than a liability?
Yeah.
And the default mode is definitely that we're offloading our thinking to this thing and learning less and being less capable, being more distracted, and more divorced from the kind of reality of what's happening. Is there a way that we can use the tools to actually avoid that and maybe learn faster?
I want to know the answer to that question, and hopefully we can get to that. For the
Mm,
former point, I was mentioning to you earlier, someone we chatted with in the past, Steve Kraus from Valtown, had written some blog post I saw yesterday, sort of fly through, which was
mm.
coding is still computer science is still worth learning. And one of the two main arguments, again, I didn't read this fully. I'm sorry, Steve. I wish I had, but it was like it's a beautiful way to express thought, and it's like another way to learn. But it was like, is that really all we got? That this happens to be a sort of like beautiful mode of expression? It to me, it felt like I expected to see more meat behind the bones of the argument of why you should learn this.
Oh,
Um,
I mean, he
yeah.
he did have a couple more points in
Okay, good.
fairness to
Yeah,
Steve,
yeah,
but
yeah,
uh, but look, I think, I mean, I sometimes feel like a bit of an alien in this debate because people will say things like, well, just as we stopped writing assembly 50 years ago, we will stop writing Python code. And I'm like, I still want everyone to write some assembly, not all day long. But
Yeah.
one of the like one of the most important things that I feel like I've done for people is help them write, not necessarily assembly, but like to go and do something that has been abstracted away
Yeah.
from them for
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
time. So
Open it
even for
up.
like for the kinds of students that have come to me, their first language is almost always an interpreted language. And even just to teach them a compiled language and to teach them how the computer works and actually executes this program, it just like opens up this new realm of possibility. And so to like imagine that you'd like slap on another, and this is the worst abstraction of all, right? Because it's not even designed to be an abstraction. It's not like deterministic, and
Yeah.
it's not something that's like actually designed to conceal complexity like intentionally. To slap another quasi abstraction on and say, oh, well, we'd never look behind this thing. It seems kind of absurd.
Yeah.
But that wasn't Steve's point. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Steve, I think, sees it as a good kind of tool to use to prod and explore, and I agree with that, and think that like as much as we should be teaching arithmetic and other forms of mathematics to kids who aren't necessarily going to spend their whole lives doing that, there's like some argument to be made for some form of programming there.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm looking at it now. The main thing is he points out it's like the possibly the best medium for meta skills learning in general, which like I think that's what you're agreeing with. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, to what extent does your learning of algebra and calculus and so on extend to other things? I mean, everyone used to learn geometry from Euclid, right? Or not
Yeah.
everyone, but like it was a common thing to say, like, well, by learning the first book of the elements or something, you're gonna like be able to do deductive reasoning and to prove things, and so like we had all these arguments about generalization of our abilities, and the case. I think you can argue that one either way, but if you can do it for things like geometry, you can certainly do it for coding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's an aside. I mean, I'm thinking more for those reasons, I would still want my kids to do a bit of coding.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but talking about professional software engineers, I think the question of how much computer science should I learn? To what extent should I understand the systems that I'm working with? Um, I personally think that it's much more now than even before. And maybe like what's getting lost in the conversation is potentially people's divergent meanings of what is computer science.
Okay.
Like, to me, I think what's really worth learning is um, how these systems work in ways where we can peel back the layers. We
Yeah.
know the vocabulary, we know the concepts, and okay, like now it's maybe fewer of the direct skills are so necessary because you can fill that in as you go. But like being able to interpret the output or even direct the input, direct the agent is important. So you don't have that conceptual framing.
Yeah.
Too much. And I think like you can see this from both the aggressively pro and aggressively anti-AI camps. The people who are doing the best in either camp are the ones who understand conceptually the systems that they're working on, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone has the same access to the same models, more or less, and there's a huge spectrum of what people are able to do with it.
Yeah.
And like the differentiating thing there is that people who are achieving outstanding results are not coming from nowhere, right? They're not just like prompting better or using more tokens or something. Like
Yeah.
they have better
There's a
ideas
real
for where to direct it.
foundation. Yeah.
They have better ideas for where to direct it and better like taste for how to use it.
I, it sort of to me feels like the overusage of this is something that eventually, like, I fear, I sometimes see it myself. There's like saps the will. It's not the will to live, but the will to learn, and it does it in a like a potentially insidious way. If you just see, or you're seeding control, seeding learning, and then you can sit back more. And to me, it almost becomes like the same feeling if I'm mindlessly there. I don't know if you've ever seen social media, Oz, but it's this thing where people scroll through. They scroll through this stuff and they're looking at like funny cat pictures and whatnot. But it's something a lot of us do out here. And I've taken a back seat and I'm not actively engaged and I'm getting feedback and I'm in some sort of loop situation, but it's not a loop that's helping me grow in some way. And that's what I'm worried about with this. And it's I do want to get to this, but like how can I change my modality of interaction so that the loop is propulsively making me better and helping me understand, and not a propulsive loop of me sitting back and kicking this off and going for a run. Like it's good I went for a run, but I'm not learning. And I do feel like I'm not learning at the same rate that I would if I was just looking up man pages and working through CS Primer. It just and maybe that's just a feeling thing. I don't know, but that's my fear right now. That I'm feeling that personally, and I do sense some of that in the discourse that where the loop is not looping in the right way. It's not like I'm looping and learning and I've learned all this new stuff in the last year. I have this perception of more productivity, but I don't know that I've
Yeah.
become better at being a software engineer.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that you sense this in the discourse because, like, this is the big question
Yeah.
that pretty much every software engineer is asking. And I have like two categories of suggestions, or at least we can look at it in two ways. One is like tactically, how could you change your workflow, your prompts? Like, at what level can you interact with this tool in a different way? Like, how can you hold it differently?
It's this is for me is always the thing. It's like once I have this iPad, I'm gonna start drawing or something like that. And it's like I that's another failure mode, I think. But maybe there is
Yeah,
some.
I mean, there are many ways to hold this particular tool. Like,
Yeah,
that's the extremely interesting thing about it.
yeah,
Like, even in 100 tokens, there's so much that you can express. So yes, there are substantial ways I think that you can change your use of this thing day to day,
yeah,
um, to keep your brain switched on more. Um, but then there's the other category of improvements, approaches, where the social media analogy is like, well, do you install this app on your phone that blocks you when you open Twitter or whatever?
yeah.
Or do you like reflect on what you want from your life and what your social media addiction is taking from you, who you are,
That
and
sounds
how to
hard.
achieve
That sounds
that?
hard. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the hard thing of like, um, am I in a culture that rewards the kind of thing that I want? Am I living up to the values that I have for myself? Um, do I want to work? And like, do I want that feeling of doing something challenging?
yeah,
Um, and I think for most people right now, like if I had one piece of advice, it's to do harder, more ambitious work. Like, am I doing something that's hard enough that I'm confronted with the fact that the tool isn't working or my understanding of the system while using the tool isn't enough? Whereas, like, I don't know, are agents working for me right now? Yes, because I'm not doing anything technically ambitious right
yeah.
now. Are they working for Richie right now? No, because he is doing something technically ambitious right now.
Can you
So
clarify like ambition and hardness? Like, is it like rewrite this thing in Rust? Is that
no,
the
no,
difference?
that's like
What do you mean?
that's very well understood.
Yeah, yeah,
It's very easily verifiable.
yeah,
So our definition of what's challenging is shifting now because
yeah.
like the mythos, CVEs,
Hmm.
that's hard, that's challenging stuff. But because of the kind of verifiability of that kind of work and the relative ease of training for that rather than other outcomes, the models are able to do that. So putting that kind of thing aside, like, uh, it is the ability to push beyond what exists. Like it is doing something at the frontier,
Yeah.
for one of a better framing. Um, and that's not like immediately derivable from other results. That requires some creativity, some ingenuity, um, where like maybe the value of it is known to you in advance, but is perhaps hard to express.
Yeah.
Uh, and will be clear to other people after it's there, right? It's like someone shows up with this project, this paradigm shift, like maybe something like React. We take React for granted now, but showing up with React and saying, "Hey, this is a different way to do things, and like this is a way to avoid this class of bugs
Yeah.
and to work differently." It would be hard to express that in advance. I mean, you could say, well, look, we have all this imperative code is causing state management issues and whatever. And like you could imagine a paradigm that's more declarative. Like you could state some aspects of it, but to show up with it, um, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
So
So
like for that I feel as if you need to have been battle tested in some area and like this needs to come or I feel like that it comes organically from experience versus I don't know that I could use the agent to uncover. I can't prompt right after this and say what are the frontiers and what are some likely suggestions for these frontier problems.
yeah, so that's why I think that like the tactical things that are meaningful and I think you should do um, have to be like habitual over a long period of time.
Yeah.
It's not something where you're like, well, I can start using someone else's skill that I get from GitHub and plug that in, and this is now like my way to be enlightened. It's
Even
it's more
outside of the
like
frontier stuff, like do you see people have success with, oh, I'm not a database SRE or something, but I've tapped into this document and now I have a skill and now I can operate at the level of like a staff level SRE or something like that. Are there less ambitious unlocks that you've seen come to bear, which might not be like pushing the frontier, pushing the future of things, but like I've gone from like a middling level engineer to like now I'm doing some stuff perhaps dangerously that would have taken me years to feel comfortable doing.
yeah, maybe doing that non-dangerously is
Yeah.
impressive,
Yeah.
is good. I mean, yeah, it's like you do need to find the version of it that works with you. Like that's impressive for that's challenging for you to do.
Yeah.
So like if you were learning chess, it'd be absurd for me to say, hey, like the reason why you're finding this dissatisfying and you can't get in a good zone is because you're not aiming to be a grandmaster. I
Mhm.
need to say like your ambitious objective should be to learn as much as you can in 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And like measure yourself against yourself or your peers. So you can do it from that perspective for sure. But like it is easy to fool yourself with these
Yeah.
agents.
Yeah.
So and the SRE example, like until something collapses and you can't fix the bug,
I
you
know.
might not
Yeah.
get that feedback.
Yeah. Well, thinking back to some of our other previous conversations around ed tech and um, what is it, the Two Sigma impact of having
Uh,
that, your personal Aristotle and things like that.
yeah.
Are you seeing anything as it relates to maybe it's like earlier education, but are agents unlocking anything close to this like Two Sigma effect of having this like personalized tutor who you care about that you look up to that is actually yielding those better results? Are there experiments you've seen or have you personally
Yeah,
just
I mean, no one's looking up to Claude, right?
no, no, no. It's more like go
uh,
away. Claude's been in our Slack lately, just like commenting out of the blue, and it's just like, please go, please go
yeah,
away.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, look, I think it's an incredible tool for autodidacts, for experienced autodidacts, where I think if you have a good sense of how to calibrate your own challenge level, then generating those challenges, I think is like it's the best tool we've ever had for that. But that's not the default that people take. The
yeah,
default position that anyone who's trying to learn something takes is that They have questions and they go to a tool like this for answers.
Yeah.
And the you really need to invert that as step zero, really. Like before you do anything, you need to say, hey, like the point is for me to do the work. Like, what is the way that I construct a challenge for myself? Like, even if that is about question and answer, it's like, what is the question for me? What is the
Mhm.
question that I cannot answer right now? Like it's the back of the textbook chapter, not the front. And so like that's been the main way that I've been using agents here, where it's like I want to learn something new. Um, if it's something that's well understood, then maybe I'm going to go and try and find somebody else's sequence of exercises.
Yeah.
But if it's something relatively niche or domain specific or relates to something that I'm working on directly, then I'm saying, how can I get the agent to set me up with a challenge that's within my zone of proximal development? So this like Vygotsky idea of like, what is something that I could not do unassisted,
Yeah.
but just barely could with assistance? And obviously Vygotsky was thinking like with the assistance of a teacher, and we're thinking with the assistance of an agent. But it's like, what is that zone within which I'm pushed? Um, Getting yourself into that zone with agents, it's fantastic. It's a really, if you can make a nice loop, you're just like on this new path, not the default.
Yeah. Well, now my inclination now is to go to the tactical, which is that does feel like a skill that you could give to Claude. It's like, this is some background on like things you know or understand, like some context, but then also, hey, Claude, this is the skill with which I want you to construct when I present you with a new domain. Here is the framework by which I want you to construct these different challenges and things like that. Or
Yeah.
like is that a worthwhile pursuit to sort of find that repeatable learning thing, or do you just or is it good enough now to sort of just prompt it raw every single time that you're approaching one of these things?
Yeah, I need to play with this more. So I've seen a couple of people attempt to do this kind of skill.
Yeah.
Um, and it has fallen a bit flat. And certainly when you try and be really direct about this kind of thing, you see like kind of you see the nuance in it. So even as a simpler example, everyone's like, well, an AI tutor needs to be Socratic.
Hmm.
And so people put in the prompt, be Socratic. And then somehow all of the models interpret that as be insufferable. Like their
Yeah.
version of Socratic is just
Yeah.
like the worst possible question that you can ask.
Yeah.
At the time, it turns out that there's nuance in like really aiming that question well. And in a similar way, if you just say, "Hey, like keep me at my zone of proximal development,"
Yeah.
the model's like, "Hey, here's a great way to keep you at your zone of proximal
Oh
development."
God. Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to repeat the thing back to me.
Yeah.
I want you to understand the full nuance of the situation and have all the context and do a good job. And it turns out that they can't. So I've been doing it like for myself, just prompt by prompt, like not trying to capture
Yeah.
anything as a skill. And then the question is like, to what degree could I have a constrained environment with some supporting context that helps other people do this? And so this is something that I'd like to try. Basically, soon I want to do a live cohort and teach like an algorithms course
Yep.
and have context that's injected into a custom harness, or like a Claude code plugin,
Yeah. Yeah.
or similar, and to adjust that as people go, and basically set it up to deliver questions. But planning out this course, there's a lot of context that goes into it, both domain specific context and like audience specific context,
Yeah.
um, that I think doesn't generalize into like a teach me anything style skill that people are attempting.
Okay.
So I mostly see it as like a cultural skill, rather than a a skill.md, um, or a, teach me.md or whatever. Um, and I'm not sure how to convey that
Yeah.
either.
I, it's interesting. I want I wonder if and when there will be this world where it's like The Matrix, a movie, where he goes in and he can just download kung fu into his brain. At the same time, like the process of learning the journey is the destination, and maybe like the just implanting that into my brain isn't actually the satisfaction of growing and like having the experience within the zone of proximal development towards becoming a kung fu master or something like that. But I'm excited by the idea of experimenting in that regard. Like I should pick something I want to learn and see if I can use the tools to do it and be more self-directed. And that it's kind of my plea to you is if you have any suggestions of problems or ways I should approach maybe by the next time we chat for Charlie, to like change the nature of your relationship with these agents and take the power back and take the learning back. And you must have had this conversation with other students, but that would be my ask because I feel like it's right there. And if I'm not actively changing my relationship, I'm just going to be in a much of a like sit back mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, I think where I would start is the end.
Okay.
Really focus on like what is the thing I would like to be able to do, which I cannot. So not like, oh, I have a feeling that I should know something more about this area, like I should really go and study linear algebra or whatever because it
Yeah.
seems useful. Not that. Um, I mean that's good too. Like I'm not saying excise that from your life, but
Yeah.
in terms of practicing, like the meta practice of getting good at something, it's like I want to be able to, or an example of something that I want to be able to do is this. Like I
Yeah.
saw that somebody built this and I don't really know where to start. I am confident that like I wouldn't be able to do this myself. That's the kind of thing that I want to be able to do.
Cool. Cool.
So there's this challenge. So you were mentioning that you like that you want to firm up your understanding of concurrency. That's like a good starting point, but we need to turn that into like what's an example of a project
Yeah.
that feels like, without someone or an agent doing a lot of the hard work for you, you wouldn't be able to do. Or if you did, like you wouldn't like really understand what you're doing or be able to generalize it or like do that to your own personal standard. So you decide what that is. It's like a, I don't know, 2000s era Google web crawler or something. It's like a real production web crawler.
Well, I
Of
always I have this project I did a while back, which is pre-Claude. I think it was pre-Claude maybe, but it certainly was, where it looked at Wayback Machine and it made a little animated GIF of
Okay,
websites over time, and it picked like periodic. You could set the interval and
I
whatnot.
remember
And
this project. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like that could be some place. And to me, like this advice you're giving is like the advice you'd be giving for the last 15 years of somebody who wants to code, which is like don't just want to it's not just about learning to code. You have to have some project in mind. And it's just interesting to me that that hasn't changed here.
Yeah, I think what's changed is that like now you can go from what feels like a month-long project to what I do today. How do I do my practice today, or how do I take my step in this
Yeah.
direction
Yeah.
today very easily?
Okay.
Because previously you would say, hey, like this project feels really large. I need to build up this intermediate skill first. Um, but like, do I find a book on that intermediate skill? Like, do I go and purchase O'Reilly's whatever Python concurrency and start working
Yeah.
through it? And like, no, you don't do any of that. You're just like, okay, I have this intermediate skill. I need to learn this library in Python. Whatever. Now you can go into Claude and say like, construct a broken version of this problem that I
Yeah.
would like to solve, for which, like, in order to solve it, I would need to use this library.
Cool.
Or give me examples where I need to find the concurrency bug in this like in this kind of situation, like where the lock is released too soon or something, give me
Yeah.
10 of those.
Yeah.
And then you do a few and you're like, oh, these are too easy. Give me harder versions. And then you're like, well, what else am I not thinking about that's in this kind of general category? Like I've asked you for three types of exercises in finding concurrency bugs. What other concurrency bugs am I not even thinking about? And can you
Yeah.
give me a sequence of exercises? And then you go back and say, that was too easy, too hard, whatever. Like that's the calibration to get into the zone of proximal development.
Yeah.
That before, um, like, okay, it's not as good as a domain expert tutor at kind of feeding you that ball
Yeah. Yeah.
um, at the right at the right speed with the right amount of topspin or whatever. Like the expert coach is going to be better, but in this situation, you can at least say, "Hey, that ball felt fast. Give me another one," and you can do that a lot on your own time.
And people are, of people who are actively doing this exact thing.
Of this exact thing.
Of
Yeah, look, I think it's the default
Okay.
for people who are lifelong autodidacts. Like they
Cool.
pick up a tool like this and they're like, fantastic, I can create the right challenge for myself.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. Okay. Well, maybe this is me recognizing I'm not the proper lifelong autodidact. So maybe that'll be my first challenge is reframing how to do that. But yeah, I want to do that.
Well,
And
I think
yeah.
I think the first thing is like deciding what you yeah. I mean, it's these are the big questions, but it's like, what do I want from my life? What do I want from my life? Like, am I doing this for fun? Am I doing this for
Yeah.
some like extrinsic purpose? Am I trying to like get a job, whatever?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
trying to change
Why?
my job? Um, and you've got to work backwards from that a little bit. Um, and yeah, so this is like where some of my personal experience doesn't necessarily generalize because if I could learn something and not put it to use necessarily, I still enjoy that
Yeah.
process. It's
Yeah.
still a
Of course.
personal value of mine. And I understand that that's not the same for everybody. For some people, it's like I need to. For some people, it's like they learn algorithms to do leak code to do interviews, and that's
Yep.
when the only ever time that they touch it.
Yep.
And there are other people at the other end of the spectrum who are just like so mesmerized and enchanted, whatever they want to spend their life on it. And we're all somewhere in between that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a little bit more on the side of like, well, if this is a substantial part of my life, it's like physical exercise. This is something that has its own reward there as well. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not like lifting weights so that I can one day lift a car off an infant or something. It's like, uh, it's like
That
part
would
of
be
part of
cool.
the
That would be cool.
practice. That
Yeah.
would also be cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would also be cool.
Yeah. But I think my own, it's outside of the domain of technology per se, but I'm often thinking about like when I want to learn things or like all the various side projects I have. And this comes in when we've talked about writing projects and things. And it's like, what's the thing when you're waking up and it's like the first thing you want to go do, or like the problem that is keeping you up and you're constantly thinking about. So that's always in the back of my head, that Oz approach to like why I might not be making progress on the great American novel that is, sitting on my shelf. But one fun thing I've been doing is there's this little film festival in our town, and every year I've been thinking like I'm going to make a little narrative that incorporates some new filmmaking or editing technique, and I'm going to just sort of work that in. And so the first year was like a time travel thing where I figured out very quickly how to reverse a clip. And then last year it was, I'm curious about green screens. And I watched a couple YouTube videos and I figured out how to do it. And I made a whole story like that incorporated green screens. So in that sense, I, the project was oriented around like learning a new skill. Like it'd be cool to be able to like get better at making
Hmm.
movies and things like that. But I also was motivated by I want to have this product at the end of it, which is this thing
Yeah.
I can return to. And it's been really like those are things where I look back on the last year of like things I learned and things I did that were successful, which is aligned with you got to know what you want to do in mind. You can't, at least for
Mm.
me, I can't be coming with this abstract, I should do this. Should is
Mm.
never good enough for me. It's like I want
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a real trap. People get on Hacker News and like every second article is like, oh, I should really learn about cryptography or whatever.
yeah.
And it's a whole world of stuff. No, you got to work backwards from self-understanding.
Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting to think about this in the context of like teenagers as well. Like, um, I don't know, we should have Michael Strong on here, who's an educator who I really like, who
cool.
teaches teenagers, and he has like there are a lot of teenage boys who show up who are just totally addicted to video games.
Yeah,
And the first thing that he says, I mean, he's not like judgmental or anything, but he does ask them, like, do you see yourself at the age of 30 playing computer games in your mum's basement? Like, is that a life that would feel good? And everyone says no.
yeah,
And just to have that, like, that conversation with them, I mean, it's something you got to do with yourself as well, right? It's what is the life that I want to live? Is it one where I'm proud of what I do? And in your case, like it's community oriented, the example
yeah,
that you gave, and it's sharing something publicly, and but it's producing, it's creative. These are all like things that to you are important. Great. And like recognizing that and leaning into that is fantastic. And for other people, maybe it's more like traditional career achievement or something, and they frame it through that. And for other people, it's fully intrinsic. But like knowing that and working back from that, I think is important. But
Chatting
yeah, and
about
then
I was just chatting about teens and whatnot. I was curious if you'd share something about how agent workflows or anything like that. Has that come into any of the homeschooling stuff that you're working on? Are you using it all for lesson planning, or is there any direct interaction for the girls with systems like this at this stage?
so I do have them ask some of their questions directly
Yeah,
to say Claude or Gemini.
yeah,
Um, and that is sometimes better than like going through Wikipedia or something,
yeah,
like asking follow-up questions and just like more of the forcing yourself to distill your question down into English and type it, and all these things are good practice. Um, that's like the most obvious way that it's come in. I don't use it for any kind of content generation,
yeah,
although so like just yesterday was the first time that I felt like maybe the content that the model outputs directly would be usable in some circumstances.
yeah,
Um, where like we had a niche topic and we came up with like kind of booklet, like a little 8-page book where, a human wouldn't bother to write a little book like that on that topic.
yeah,
If they did, it'd probably be better, almost certainly be better. But this is what we have, and it's usable. It's
yeah.
something that I'd read with them. It's a bit cringeworthy for me because I know the kind of slop, the slop smell. Um, I feel a little bit bad about giving that
What
to my
The
kid.
M dashes or what? What's your smell? You're absolutely
The
right.
like
Grasshoppers do love jumping. Like, what was the book about?
uh, the book was about a particular scientist,
Yeah,
but it was yeah. I mean, all the little things.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
this, but that.
yeah,
The triple framing and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But that doesn't really matter. Like it was readable. Um, so there is glimmers of being able to use it there. But the thing with early education is that we have been thinking about all this stuff for a while, and like the core of what most kids are learning at that age it, is very well covered by people who've been thoughtful about the nuance of it. And so it's going to be a while before you say, hey, instead of buying this like
Yeah, yeah,
white sheet local curriculum, I do this other thing.
yeah.
So it hasn't shown up as much there. But having them use it directly, ask questions and build stuff, and I know a lot of people are doing like vibe coding with their kids, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's like a good entry point. Like see that, get a quick feedback loop. Don't get frustrated as much as you would if you were trying to like get your environment set up
Yeah.
with artisanal coding, and then peel back the layers like as they go. I think that's all good stuff. All
Cool.
sorts of electronics projects, robotics projects, people doing. It's good to
Yeah,
see.
we've been doing my main thing with our kids, it's just been, especially the older one, is just introducing the idea that you can make things. You can make a book. I remember when you guys bound that book, and I thought that was so
Mhm.
cool. I haven't gone so far as to like fully figure out how to do that and whatnot, but making things with the 3D printer, making comic books, and yeah, I can see where like generative stuff would be really helpful there. I was one thing um, I was concerned about was I don't want them to know about Nano Banana, where it was like, oh, what if they see how easy it is to generate these images, then they won't want to learn to draw because I know every parent is inclined to think that their child is like art is exceptional, and I'm no exception there. I think that I'm loving watching the progress, and I was concerned about that, and it just turned out to not be the case at all. She played with it for a little bit. She occasionally likes to play with it when it comes up, but she's still getting better at drawing. And I that was a fear I had, and um, Carly was not concerned about that, and just playing with it, it was great. So it was that was something that was nice, that I didn't have to be afraid of that, changing the way she's approaching getting better at drawing little pictures and things.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are concerned about
Yeah,
direct access to chatbots, including Anthropic, right?
yeah, yeah,
you're not meant to have you're not, it's against terms of service, I think, to have an under 18-year-old unsupervised on on Claude.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, my experience has been that with supervision, it's a good tool to
Cool.
have that. But yeah,
Well,
for you, I think like for next time, I would say if you have a think about what you earnestly want to learn,
yeah.
and not not a should.
What I should learn. That I know I did that. I came to you with a should, and I need to come up with a tangible thing.
And then if you have a think about like what is a representative version of that that you'd like to work towards as a longer term goal, like what would my project be in a month? And it could be, a video production thing. Like it could be
Yeah.
like that's all fine. Um, and then we think about how to break that down into like a sequence of goals, and then we think like what's the daily practice for that? Not like the daily productivity, not the daily objective, but the daily like skill building for that.
Yeah.
Um, then we'll have a sense of this, like using agents to work in your zone of proximal development
Okay, cool.
thinking.
Yeah, I would share my screen. I'd be happy to have you, pair program with me through that. That would be fun.
Yeah, we can give it a shot.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that soon. Good catching up, man.
Oh man,
All right.
take care.
Later, Oz.
Bye.